It's exactly 7 months since I started this channel, and I still have no idea where I'm going with this. I would like to think that eventually things will shape out and I will have a consistent routine, but I'm beginning to come to terms with the fact that maybe this is how it's going to be indefinitely. The problem could be more in my trying to stay consistent. In other words, it could be that because I don't have any particular inspiration of something to talk about, and I'm sort of forcing myself to come up with something to talk about, that forces me to find a topic that doesn't exist yet. Now, it's not a bad thing for me to look for a topic to talk about. It, in many ways, increases my discipline as far as staying consistent goes. It increases my skill of speaking, which is the primary goal of this channel. But I can't say that the difficulty in finding a topic is one that motivates me or makes me feel inspired to continue because somehow it's part of the learning process. I'd be lying if I said that. In reality, the feeling of the feeling of discouragement is very palpable every time I feel this way. There are certain weeks where I start the video because I have a very clear path towards what I want to talk about that week. Sometimes it's because I found another video that I want to review. Other times it's because there was a book that had a topic in there that lends itself particularly well to the YouTube audience. And other times I just have an interesting thought that I would like to share. And you might think that between these three things that I've mentioned, that there would always be inspiration for something to talk about. But if there is a route from having these options to having a consistent inspiration, I haven't found that yet. And again, it is a very discouraging feeling because I often find myself wondering whenever I am in such an uninspired place, how much exactly does this project have to go? What is the longevity of this, so to speak? And I don't want to stop, I wish I always had that inspiration. Not so much inspiration to continue as much as inspiration of what to talk about. And I wish I could come up with a very clear way to go about this. It just so happens that every option that is available is not a great option when it comes to building an audience, as far as I can tell. When it comes to making reviews about books, there are two options. I could make a very concise review where I just summarize the book, basically. And I don't think such channels have much running room based on other accounts that I've seen. And I'm not particularly interested in that either because I really like to dive into topics. The second problem with books is that the topics are not as marketable. Even the most popular books, obviously, the more popular it is, the more marketable it's going to be, whether that's for the title of the book or a particular topic in the book. But still, there's the same issue of someone who's starting a YouTube channel, which I can still say even after 7 months because of my low audience rate right now, 203. I say low not to come off as some type of ingrateful for these 203 audience. I often find myself wondering what these 203 people are seeing in me that makes them want to click the subscribe button. So it fills me with a lot of humility and gratitude to have this small audience, as it may be. But with books, to go back to the earlier point, I find that I just need a better way to market. Even these 203 audience that I got are audience who, for the most part, came from my political videos that I made. And politics is something that I would probably not think to keep consistent it's a unless it's something marketable, which it is. The only reason why I would make political videos consistently is exactly because of its marketability. Secondarily is an interest in it, but that interest really pales in comparison to the other interests that I have, like philosophy, well-being, mental health. When I say mental health, I don't mean it in the new age way where, there's all kinds of therapy and I would say more than enough pressure for people to therapize their livelihoods and to feel as though somehow therapy is the sole answer to everything. Not to mention the inadequacy of a lot of therapists out there in being able to address such issues. I think to whatever extent it's possible to be a good therapist, there must be, like any other skill out there, very few and far between individuals who are actually good at it. And my impression of how many of such individuals there are does not align with the burgeoning interest in therapy and encouragement to go to therapy that there is. But anyways, I digress. The point is that I want to keep this channel going. I really do. And I don't see myself stopping anytime soon. But I am beginning to doubt my ability to keep it as consistently as I want to. And with that comes the fear that I might, inadvertently take some time off and maybe not come back to it for a while, maybe 2 years later, 1 year later, I don't know. This is really just a fear. I hope it stays as an imagined fear, but it's something that lurks in the borders of my mind every time I have this difficulty with coming up with a topic. This time around, like other times when I first started this channel, I just turned on the camera and decided that whatever comes to mind, so be it. I'll just say it out loud. Maybe I will post it, maybe I won't post it, but the exercise of, I should say, exercising my verbal skills, my ability to translate abstract ideas into words, I figured was worth it, even if this doesn't get posted. So here we are. And I do want to digress a little bit on that topic of speaking in front of the camera extemporaneously as a skill. I think maybe one of the biggest lessons that I'm learning while doing this is my ability to be conscious of the way that these thoughts, as I said, are being translated to words. Instead of almost mechanically saying whatever comes to my head, I am very conscious of how it is being processed, because maybe I need to be more specific here. So I have this problem whenever I'm speaking about a very dense issue. I have a tendency to forget what it is that I'm talking about, because I don't know if this is something that happens to other people. I don't think it does as much as it does myself, because I don't get the same reaction from other people as I notice myself having whenever I fall into this problem, which is forgetting. I know it took me a long time to get to the main point that I was trying to make there, but the problem is forgetting. I forget a lot whenever I'm talking about a dense issue, because there's so many different threads that I want to take, so many different options that don't avail themselves until I'm in the process of making a particular point, and then another branch pops up, and then another branch pops up, and I could take one of those branches, but what ends up happening is that I forget the main branch that I was on, which is related but independent of what I was, of those branches. And now what I realize is that I am noticing these branches, something that didn't really happen before. I mean, it happened to the extent that I noticed the branches and I took them almost subconsciously without realizing the cost of very likely forgetting my main point, or at least the risk of forgetting my main point. But now I observe what is going on. I notice another idea pops up. And in that split second, I have to ask myself, is that worth chasing, or is it worth finishing this point? And more often than not, I think finishing the point is more important, because losing whatever branch that I did not take, the regret from that, so to speak, is much less felt, I would say, than it is me forgetting the main point that I was making. If I forget that branch, moreover, I'm not going to have any reaction that is obvious to whoever it is that I'm talking to. I might, if I'm being overly transparent, I might say there was something else that I wanted to say, but I forget. But that's very different from leading someone down a very deliberate process of thinking through a point that is being made, verbalizing that, and then very abruptly dropping off. Whether it's dropping off to follow a branch that eventually leads you back to the main point, or, as I said, risking never coming back to that main point. Either way, you're derailing that particular stream of consciousness that you had. And I believe that most of the time, following that to its end is the better answer. And then retracing your way back, if necessary, to whatever branches might have escaped your, you know, might have escaped your ability to talk about at the moment. And such is what just happened, actually. I was talking about my YouTube process, and then I came across an idea that I did not jump on that led me to this insight that I've had about not getting, distracted from my main point by these branches that pop up. And yeah, it's one of the many skills that I feel is getting improved as I make these videos. And I think this is going to be it for this video. That's not to say it's going to be it for this week. I'm really hoping that I still manage to find something online, or maybe rediscover some thought that I've had on some issue that motivates me. I was trying to find a word better than motivates, but I guess sometimes the obvious word is the most appropriate. So I'm hoping to find something like that I can talk about this week. That way I can really scratch that itch of mine when it comes to making content that is meaningful. And I guess until then, I will be searching.